Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. I do apologise everyone here live. Better late than never, okay? Surely better late than never. Welcome back to the live stream, 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix edition. Let's get into it. Bastian, Thomas, VDL, Fiona, Kai's Nightmare, Dre, Jason, James, Jeremy, Shane, Halita, Tim, Andre, and the rest of you. I appreciate your patience. I wanted to try and go live at midnight, but the graphics take a while to get them all right, and I'm sure I haven't got them all right. I don't even have my pink light on as well. Look, I was in that much of a rush, I forgot to put my pink light. Look how much of a difference it makes, though. It makes the background look absolutely banging. I love it. And also, because it's not daylight, I don't have that annoying light mark on the side. If you're listening on audio-only platforms, you won't know what I'm waffling about. Shall I stop wasting any more of your time? Because I've already wasted enough. Let's get onto it. Let's get into it. Let's have a chat about the 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, starting with race rating. What did you think? I've put a poll in the YouTube live, so I already kind of know what you think. I decided, I made the decision myself to pick 6 or above, 5, 4 or 3 or lower as the 4 options, and 44% of you have gone for 6 or above, 41% of you are 5, 13% of you a 4, 2% of you 3 or lower. This was not one that will live long in the memory. There was a bit of drama at the start. There was a crash at the start. It was a one-stop. Everyone was pushing. It wasn't anywhere near as bad as Suzuka, of course. But when you haven't got a two-stop, it's tough. You know, the tyres were last, and Charles Leclerc could take the mediums to 29 laps, which, by the way, was a Herculean effort from Charlie to manage that. When you don't have tyre degradation really factoring in, and the dirty air's hurting you so much, which, you know, around a high-speed street circuit, dirty air is kind of killer. It was all right, though. There were some decent overtakes knocking about. It was all right. Rachel, you want to sleep. Maybe you did during the race. But for me, it was a 5. It was a 5. It was about as mid as an F1 race gets. I enjoyed it enough, okay? I enjoyed it because I love F1. So even when it stinks, I still find some sick, disgusting way of enjoying it, okay? Even if it's a clanger race. But it was okay. We had things to talk about, and we will talk about them, including the topic in the title was the max penalty fare. We will get into all of that. It might be midnight. It might be 10 past midnight UK time. But there's always 541 of you concurrent right now. There's always someone awake somewhere, all right? Well done, US, Australians, Indians, Japanese, wherever you are in the world. This is a better time zone for you, all right? We crack on. And thank you, Eric, for the $5 Canadian. Canadians. Shout out to my Canadians. So yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 10. It was okay. It was nothing special. Thank you, Gil, as well, for the super chat. I will save that super chat for when we talk about the certain Dutchman and the certain Australian man clashing, but not clashing. The stewards getting involved, as they always do, into turn 1. We will get onto that. Don't you worry. But first of all, we have to talk a little bit about qualifying, don't we? Quali results. Max Verstappen, P1 by a tenth of a second. It's kind of a way of putting it. A 1/1000th is a tenth of a tenth of a tenth. 1/100th is a tenth of a tenth. And a tenth is a tenth, obviously. Very, very fine margins. Max got pole in the end, just eking out Oscar Piastri. He did get a tow from Yuki Tsunoda, which definitely made the difference. How much of a difference? He was a tenth ahead of Oscar. into the braking zone, into turn 1. Arguably the Red Bull's running less wing, so a bit more straight line speed anyway, but that Yuki Tsunoda toe did absolutely help him get the job done. It was a hell of a lap from Max. It was a really good lap from Oscar, really good lap from Charles, really good lap from George. Ultimately, there were some very, very high quality laps being put in Q3. Unfortunately, I was kind of right about Lando. If anyone was here on the pre-race CHINWAG, to almost quote me, this weekend has Lando shunting Q3 written all over it, I think is what I said. And that's exactly what happened. So he got to Q3, but didn't even get to put a banker in, crashed out, P10 for Lando Norris. Kimi Antonelli, P5. Carlos Sainz doing a very, very good job getting it to P6. A struggling Lewis Hamilton over a lap, P7. Yuki Tsunoda, not a great lap, couldn't get it together, but again, did help Max get it over the line. P8 and Pierre Gasly doing a phenomenal job in a car with a power deficit around Saudi Arabia to get it to P9. Albon missing out just by 7/1000ths of a second, getting knocked out in Q2, which made me deeply unhappy. Of course it did. Then Lawson, Alonso, Hadjar, Behrman, Stroll, Doohan, Hulkenberg, Ocon, and Gabriel Bortoleto bringing up the rear. Bosch. Those were the quality results. How does this affect the averages? Because I'm keeping track, okay? I'm doing my best to keep track in the most fair and equitable way possible. However, I'm never going to be able to be completely fair all the time. You know, it is what it is. Here's how we're looking. After 6 of 30 qualifying sessions, the biggest average gap so far is between Verstappen and Tsunoda, 0.763 of a second, and that's looking at 3 qualifying sessions where Max and Yuki have been going head-to-head in qualifying, because of course it's only been half of the season so far, because we've had 6 sessions and they've only had 3 as comparison. Then Russell Antonelli, 0.4, almost on the dot. Then Alonso Stroll, 0.287. Then Gasly Doohan, 0.272. Then Leclerc Hamilton, 0.226. 3 in a row now with quite sizable gaps in favour of Charles. Then Hadjar Lawson, 0.159. Lawson got the dub this weekend over Isaac. Albon Sainz got the dub this time out, but Albon's done the damage earlier on in the season, so that's still in favour of Alex by 0.146. Then Hulkenberg Bortoleto, 0.145. Then Piastri Norris, 0.144. So them 3 split by only 1,000th of a second each in terms of the average gaps between them. And then the closest gap so far this season is Behrman Ocon, 0.092 of a second. And thank you, DH. I appreciate you appreciating the haircut. Far too much grey coming in on the sides, so this is starting to look bald, even though there is hair there. It's just grey hair. I know Han's gassed about me getting grey because she likes was it Silver Fox, you know. So we'll see. Maybe I'm like a fine wine. Hopefully that's the plan anyway. Yeah. So let me just go through a couple of. So this time out, and this is an example, right? So even though Norris crashed out in Q3, I have to then look back at their best Q2 times, and Lando went quicker than Oscar in Q2. So technically, looking at this, which might not seem fair, but I have no lap to compare. I have to then look back at their Q2 times, and you might say, well, that's not fair on Oscar, but Lando went 0.064 quicker than Oscar in Q2, so Lando technically won this head-to-head. I know it's not. Hey, there's no perfect way. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, don't shoot the messenger. Then Leclerc Hamilton, 0.531 this time out, over half a second in favour of Charles Leclerc. Almost a full second, 9/10 between Verstappen and Tsunoda. In the final session of qualifying. 0.459 is in favour of Russell this time out. Alonso and Stroll, just under a tenth. Was the gap this weekend in qualifying between the two. And even to be fair, Sainz Albon was only 85,000ths of a second in favour of Sainz, but that was enough to get Sainz into Q3, comparing their Q2 times. 3 tenths in favour of Gasly for the Alpine boys, and then Ollie put half a second, just over half a second on Ocon in Q1. And then Lawson qualified Hadjar by 0.227 of a second in Q2, and then 0.68 of a second Hulkenberg ahead of Bortoleto in Q1 in Saudi Arabia. Okay, there we go. Lovely jubbly. That's the quali head-to-heads averages rather than looking at head-to-head numbers, because I think this tells a more representative story of the realistic gaps between teammates over the course of 30 qualifying sessions. I'm very interested to see how this is going to pan out over the course of the year. Lovely jubbly. Now let's get into the race, shall we? A race that Oscar Piastri won ahead of Max-Emilian Verstappen. Controversial, but we'll get into it. Charles Leclerc, P3. Very, very good job from Charles. Lando Norris recovering from P10 to P4. George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, kind of nowhere. The Mercedes high temperature tyre demons reared their ugly head once again, because George fell off a cliff and was worried about his tyre blowing up at the end, actually, which would have been a bit sketchy. But they still finished ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who's had a very, 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 very difficult Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend. Not happy at all was Lewis. Sad to see. And then Sainz Albon clutching out. Williams, double points, helped, of course, by Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly not finishing the race after their mischief on lap 1, because, of course, Tsunoda and Gasly both started ahead of Albon, but behind Sainz. But obviously, Alex benefited from their misfortune. And then Isaac Hadjar, sorry, I shouldn't have coughed into the mic, I've just blown out your eardrums. And then Hadjar rounds out the points, P10 in the end. Williams said after race they were being quite passive. They did actually have more pace, but they just wanted to make sure they could double DRS and keep Hadjar behind. So, who knows? And then Alonso, the nearly man. I swear Alonso gets P11 so often. I know that Aston Martin is, and to be fair, to get that Aston Martin to P11, I mean, I think that car stinks. So fair play, Fernando. Apology to Shaw for the years. And then Lawson, 10-second penalty did not help him either, which was taken off his race time at the end. And then Behrman Ocon, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Doohan, Bortoleto, and then Tsunoda Gasly out early doors. That's the race result for you. And thank you, Karthik, as well. Was this podium the 3 best drivers in F1? I mean, Russell's definitely up there. Lando's definitely up there. I mean, it's Verstappen and Leclerc are the clear 2 best drivers in F1 for me. We need to see a little bit. If Oscar can continue this consistency, maybe you can put him into that. But I feel like it's the clearest top 3 in my mind right now. Or it's definitely Verstappen and Leclerc, and then probably Russell or Piastri. He's probably the 3rd. I think probably Russell, because he's been doing it a bit more consistently than Piastri. But anyway, regardless, that doesn't matter. We'll move on. Thank you, Karthik, for the super chat. Appreciate it. Driver standings. How does that leave us after 5 of 24 weekends? Well, the Australian, with 3 wins in 5 rounds, leads the way. 99 points on the board for Oscar. And thank you, DH, for starting a donation. You don't have to do that. I appreciate it, DH, but no. Keep money in your pocket. And thank you. I appreciate it. But no. 99 for Oscar Piastri. 89 for Lando Norris. 10 points is the difference. Only 10 points. It's not much. But Oscar does now take the lead of the championship, going into a little bit of a break now before the Miami Grand Prix the week after next. And then Max Verstappen, 87 points, just 2 points behind Lando Norris, then down to 73 for George Russell. George still hanging on. He's still hanging on. As much as that Mercedes clearly over a lap doesn't have the performance. He's hanging on. He's hanging on there. And just bring, please, Toto. And not Andy Cow, is it Aston Martin? People at Mercedes, bring him something, because George is good enough. Please. He's a top 5 merchant, exactly that wing cap, and it's doing the business. Charles Leclerc, 47 points, big drop down, unfortunately, for Charlie, because it's been a difficult start to the season for Ferrari. On 47, Antonelli 38, Hamilton 31, Albon still up there on 20. We're still loving that. We still love to see it. Ocon 14, Stroll 10, Gasly 6, Hulkenberg 6, Behrman 6, Hadjar 5, Sainz 5. Sainz getting points. Good points this time out. 4 points on the board for Carlos. He's the big kind of mover in the bottom half. And then Yuki, 5 points. Still 0 for Alonso, 0 for Lawson, 0 for Doohan, and 0 for Bortoleto. And yes, they do have, is it 5 wins apiece, right? For Lando and Oscar in total in their careers, I believe. I think that's true. It might not be, but I'm pretty sure it is. Cool. Excellent. Lovely jubbly. That's the driver standings. Team standings. McLaren extend their lead at the front, of course. 188 points ahead of Mercedes on 111. So that's a 77-point gap. And then Red Bull 89, Ferrari 78. Williams move up to P5 ahead of Haas now, 25 points to Haas's 20. Aston on 10, Racing Bulls 8, Alpine and Sauber bringing up the rear, both on 6. 6. Lovely jubbly. Okay, excellent. F2. Quick one before a brief intermission where I can have a drink and me from the past can tell you to like and subscribe. Richard Verschoor won the feature race, and Arvid Lindblad won the sprint, the youngest F2 sprint winner ever. Arvid, the well-heralded Red Bull Junior, who already has a super license, won the sprint. Richard Verschoor won the feature ahead of Jack Crawford and Victor Martins. So well done, Richard. He now leads the Formula 2 Championship. He's been about in F2 for... How many seasons has Verschoor done in F2, by the way? Someone in chat must know. How many times? Is it his 4th F2 season? It feels like way more than that. It feels like way more than 4. Is it 5? Some of you said saying 5. Some of you saying 4. It feels like about 50. It feels like he's been in F2. I can perfectly picture Richard Verschoor dicing it up with a young Lewis Hamilton in GP2. He's been about for ages, but you know what? Fair play to him. He gets his sponsors, and he comes and obviously because he's not won F2, then he's not booted out. Because obviously, if you win F2, you're not allowed to do it again. So he keeps not winning it, maybe by design, so that you can just keep coming back every year. But fair play for sure. Converted a decent race win ahead of Jack Crawford. Got him at the end. Had a big tyre offset, tyre advantage. So did well. Martins seems consistent this year. I think Victor's looking good for the title in my opinion. But Verschoor leads the way so far ahead of. I did actually have a little look at the. Let's see what the championship standings are so far. We've got Verschoor ahead of Marty and then Fornaroli. Fornaroli, another good weekend from him, just off the podium. And then Alex Dunn, Luke Brown in Victor Martins, Arvid Lindblad P7. For anyone keeping an eye on Arvid, because it feels like Arvid is the next clear and obvious driver who's likely to find their way into Formula 1. Probably... I think Liam's got a start. Hadjar's had a good start to the year. Very, very good start to the year. So Liam's got to start hammering Hadjar. Otherwise, he could be in trouble. Because you know they want Arvid in this seat. Absolutely. Right. Quick reminder. Enjoying this podcast, please give it a good rating. 5 stars would be lovely. A comment, engage however you can. It helps get the CHINWAG out to the world. See, this way I can drink water without you having to hear some awful gurgling sound. Okay. Bangers and clangers. Help me out here, right? We made our predictions on Wednesday, Thursday, whenever I did the live stream. I couldn't upload the pre-race stream on Spotify because Spotify was down. So I couldn't upload that until like Friday on Spotify, which is a shame. Race winner Charles? No. Banger drive Ollie? No. Clanger drive Lando, I'm giving it a yes because he shunted in qualifying and didn't even finish on the podium in a car that I do think the McLaren was the best car this weekend. So that merits a point for Clanger, okay? And I literally predicted he would crash in qualifying, so I'm giving myself that point. Banger team Ferrari. Now Charles had a 2-second pit stop for Ferrari. He maximised. Obviously, Lewis's side of the garage really struggling. I think Lewis is struggling. Obviously, the team working with Lewis. I've given myself half a point for Ferrari. And then Clanger Team Alpine, I've given myself a tick for that. You know, Doohan was falling back through because he just didn't have the power. Gasly did well to drag that bad car to where it... I'm giving myself 2.5 points here, okay? I'm giving myself 2.5 points. Lando, Ferrari, Alpine, okay? They're the wins for me here. However, your bangers and clangers, I've also given 2.5 points to, because you predicted Oscar to win the race. You predicted Charles to have a banger drive. Clanger drive Lawson, I've given you half a point because he did out-qualify Hadjar. He was running okay, but then he got that 10-second penalty, which is a lot. Banger team Mercedes, no. Clanger team Aston Martin, no. I think Alonso did a good job. So I'm going to actually do a poll. I'm going to do a poll. Who wins? Who wins the banger and clanger head-to-head? Is it Tommo or the people? I don't know how else to refer to it in the... Who wins? Who wins? So these were yours, okay? And mine. So mine, Clanger Drive Lando, Banger Team Scuderia Ferrari, half a point. Clanger Team Alpine, I think I got 2.5 points. You had Oscar win. I mean, that's objectively true. Banger Drive Charles, yes, definitely having that. Clanger Drive Lawson, kind of, maybe a bit. Who's more deserving? Are you kidding? 75% of you have gone with you. You know when, like, you know the Obama giving Obama the medal meme? This stinks of that, all right? I don't know why I'm I'm impressed you trust us not to be... I don't trust you not to be biased, Tatsumi. I don't. However, look, I mean, 74% of the vote is significant. And I like to think most of you are not going to blindly support yourselves. So, okay, well done. You win. You win. Let's just move on. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the actual bangers and clangers, shall we? Come on then. Banger driver, 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Max, incredible job to put it on pole. Obviously P2 in the race, but was showing some really strong pace in the Grand Prix. Of course, Oscar Piastri getting ahead of Max. And again, we'll talk about the merit of the penalty in time. Carlos Sainz probably maximised his weekend. Can't see how he could have done too much more with the car underneath him. Isaac Hadjar, you know, qualified behind his teammate, but recovered and got ahead and got into the points. There are many. There's a few. I wouldn't say many standout candidates, but for me, it's absolutely Charles Leclerc. Come on. Maximised his qualifying, absolutely. Given, again, where that Ferrari is, it just doesn't seem to have the downforce. But in the race, made those mediums go 29 laps and was lapping at a decent pace at the front. Put the hards on and closed it out. Lando couldn't catch him at the end. Maybe Lando should have been able to catch him if he hadn't been held up behind Lewis for like 3 laps too long. But that's by the by. I think Charles Leclerc did a superb job this weekend. Well done, Charles. Congratulations. Where's the performance, Ferrari? I was hoping for a Charles win, and that hope bled into a prediction for a Charles win. It didn't happen, but he still absolutely slapped it this weekend. Well done, Charles Leclerc. Congratulations to you. But what do you think? Well, 1,780 of you cast a vote on the poll, so make sure you, again, subscribe to the channel so you see the community posts, or follow me on Twitter at Tommo McCluskey if you want to see some awful takes. I'm your man. Who do you think? Who do you think banged most of them all. Most of them all. Doesn't really make sense. Your winner is Charles Leclerc as well. Well done. We agree. 55% of you voted Charles Leclerc as banger driver. 22% Oscar Piastri. 7% Lando Norris. Not sure about that. Carlos Sainz, 5%. I respect that because Carlos definitely deserves his flowers because he did a very good job this weekend. But yeah, Charles Leclerc, absolutely. He's top billing, is Charles. Big fan. Very impressed. But what about the other side of things? Who clanged this weekend? Again, many difficult weekends. Bortoleto, Doohan struggled. Obviously, Tsunoda and Gasly out. But I mean, if you're going to put that on anyone, it's a racing incident. But Yuki qualifying miles off Max, and then, yeah, not great for Yuki. I've decided that I've gone with Bortoleto on this one. Obviously, he had his spinning qualifying. He qualified quite a bit off of Hulkenberg. He did lose a practice session, which that does feel quite harsh. And it was a way up between him and Doohan. But I think that Doohan having an Alpine with a power deficit, I think Gasly would have in the race just got gobbled up by DRS. It's one thing being able to put a lap in the Alpine over a lap in qualifying, but I think DRS would have seen Gasly and Doohan both fall down. And he almost hit Alonso as well, yes. I knew there was something else as well. Yeah, he almost wiped out his manager, which... conflict of interest. Have some of that, boss. That could have been. Did you hear Alonso did a whoa? He did a Kimi. He did a whoa over the radio. Gabby, you lucky boy. I mean, obviously, he didn't see Alonso coming because he was preoccupied with one of the Haas, wasn't it? But yeah, he dropped a bit of a blow on that one. I'm going Bortoleto. Messy weekend for Gabriel, all in all. Your clanger driver was Jack Doohan. 16% of the vote. Crazy close, though. Crazy close. Only 16% of you went Jack Doohan. And then, let me have a look at the actual breakdown. So, again, of 1,780 of you voted, 15% Lewis Hamilton, 15% Yuki Tsunoda, 13% Stroll. So... just go through the exact numbers here. So 273 of you went Doohan, and then 261 went Hamilton, 260 went Tsunoda, and 220 went Stroll. So very, 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 very close. Yeah, not great for Jack as well. He was saying like, basically, apparently in like FP1 and 2, the car's setup was like absolutely nowhere, and they had to like completely change the car going into FP3, which then kind of put him on the back foot. Obviously, Gasly didn't have the same problems because he got to Q3, but this was probably Jack's weakest weekend, so I can absolutely understand why you'd put him there. But also, I just think, giving your drivers a car around Saudi Arabia that has however many horsepower less than the rest is just... you kind of got one hand behind your back a little bit, haven't you? So those are the bangers and clangers. I could have easily gone Jack, so we could have ended up the same, but we haven't. Close enough. Banger team, for me, clear candidate, although they did have a terrible pit stop. Someone in chat will definitely be able to tell me how bad Williams' pit stop was. But still, to get P8 and P9 double points, I think they maximised the results. And yes, fortunate for Alex that Yuki and Pierre got taken out by one another, I guess. Kind of more Yuki taking out Pierre, but racing incident. But, it's not Williams' fault that they got a bit lucky on that front. And yeah, was it 6.2, 6.3, 6.4 seconds for Sainz? So yeah, they almost undone their hard work with Carlos, but finishing 25 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. I mean, the pit stop couldn't afford to be much worse than that, but it certainly wasn't like they missed out on any additional positions higher up. So, yes, banger team. I'm giving it Williams. Yeah, I missed that as well, to be honest. I only heard about it right after the fact. So, and then Clanger team. Sorry, not Clanger team. I'm getting ahead of myself here. We need to see your banger team, which is also Williams. 70% of you went Williams. 21% of you went McLaren. And you've got to say, McLaren certainly held up their end of the bargain, given their drivers, a very, very competitive car. I think, Max definitely benefited from running in that clean air at the start, which plays into why I think he ultimately did what he did to try and maximise his result. But McLaren, held up their end of the bargain. 4% Ferrari, again, to get Charles into... Charles, if you were only looking at Charles' side of the garage, and I'm not sure how long was Lewis's pit stop as well. Maybe he had a good pit stop. But Charles' side of the garage was chef's kiss. And obviously, yes, Lewis is struggling. That's on him, but it's also on the team to be able to get the performance out of him. You know what I'm saying? You get me? And then 2% Mercedes, banger team. I guess P5, P6. But probably Mercedes' weakest weekend of the year, I would say. But they still managed to get P5, P6, so I guess, it's not too bad. Could have been worse. Oh, yeah, Clanger vote. A few of you are asking where Bortoletto... Bortoletto got 210 votes, which is 11.9%. So he was just outside of the top 4. But plenty of people still went for Gabby in terms of Clanger. It was just very close. It was just very, very close. Okay. Finally, Clanger team. My vote for Clanger team this weekend is Sauber. Sometimes you just got to give it to Sauber because they were just slow. They, again, Gabby lost a whole practice session. Hulkenberg was not able to make any progress really at all in the race. Sometimes you just got to give it to Sauber, and this is one of those times. And it's the first time I've actually given Sauber a Clanger vote, which is crazy, because when you look at my totals here, Sauber joined the list. So what? Wow. I've given half the grid Clanger team already. Haas, Ferrari, Alpine, Red Bull and Sauber all have 1 vote each. Banger team, 2 for Mercedes, 2 for Haas, 1 for Williams. Clanger driver, 3 for Lawson, 1 for Stroll, 1 for Bortoletto. Banger driver, 1 for Antonelli, 1 for Ocon, 1 for Hadjar, 1 for Russell, 1 for Charles Leclerc. But what about yours? Your Clanger team is Alpine. 31% of the votes. That's mainly because of Viri, because the engine is not up to par. But also, Gasly. I don't think Gasly would have been top 10. I don't see Gasly getting top 10 ahead of... I just don't think it's happening. I think the power deficit hurts them too much in the race. 28% of you went Sauber. 22% Aston Martin. Alonso did well, though. But they're still not where they should be. And 10% Haas. Better in the race, not great in qualifying. Ollie was pretty satisfied with his Q1 lap, but that was about it. So your totals, you've also voted Clanger for half the grid. Ferrari, Racing Bulls, McLaren, Red Bull and Alpine so far this season. And then Banger team, 2 Mercedes, 2 Haas, 2 Williams. Clanger driver, 3 Lawson, 1 Stroll, 1 Doohan. And Banger driver, 2 for Oscar Piastri. And then 1 for Antonelli, 1 Verstappen, 1 Leclerc. Charles Leclerc. Excellent. Okay. We are 34 minutes or so in. And we've gone through all the bangers and clangers. Should we go team by team now? And then we'll use the team by team to cover any incidents related to said teams. Okay? So there's a couple of super chats we haven't looked at because they are related to some of this stuff. Okay? Team by team. Starting with Aston Martin because they're the first team to appear on screen because they just are. Scary for Fernando. Lance went for the hoping for a safety car strategy. Just kind of left him out. Because I'm pretty sure Stroll, am I right in saying Stroll pitted after the shunt at the start? to go onto hard tyres early. I know a few of them did. I know Bortoletto did. I know Doohan did. I think Stroll did. Not 100%. But yeah, obviously you long it out. You hope a safety car comes, and it never did. And he was holding up Oscar a bit. I mean, I haven't actually seen it. I don't know how much he was actually holding up Oscar, or whether Oscar was just having a bit of a moan. Fernando was just, as soon as he was out of DRS, that car's draggy. That car is too draggy. And he was just getting eaten alive. Even with a Mercedes power unit in the back, still not good enough to, if you attach that power unit to a chassis that clearly resembles a green. I've got nothing. I want to say something really witty, but like a green garbage truck is like not witty at all. Look, it's 1:45 in the morning. Let me have that. All right, come on. Not much more to say about Aston Martin. Just write it off. Just 26 can't come sooner. Please give Alonso a chance for a title fight in 26, please. Oh my God, please. That'd be so good. The belief is hard. It's hard to still believe. But please, okay. Like my Ryobi lawnmower, because that's green, kind of. It's more neon actually. It's like the neon bits on it. Anyway. Red Bull Racing are the next team who've appeared on the screen. Shall we? Yeah, let's talk about the old Red Bull McLaren incident. Verstappen, Piastri. We're gonna do a poll. All right, 1,281 of you here in the live chat. Get ready for a poll. Was Max's penalty fair? So Max's 5-second penalty. Yeah, I think fair is the correct word. So I'm going to use. So I'm going to say no. It should have been harsher. It was about right, or it should have. How is it so hard to write 3 options in a... It should have been harsher. It was about right. It was too harsh. There we go. That's how you write the other thing. Oh my God. I need a water break. Come on. Let me know in the poll. So, this is my reading of... Actually, before we go into my reading, super chat. So, thank you, Gil, for your super chat earlier. Regarding lap 1 plus Austin 24, I think the ahead of the apex rule should be scrapped. Just allows for unsportsmanlike behaviour and incidents to occur. Now, the Austin 24, if you don't remember, that is when Lando overtook Max off the track. And it was very much debated that, because Max was ahead at the apex, but Max went off track, but then so did Lando, blah, blah, blah. Which has kind of been referenced in, even though this is quite a different incident, because in that incident, well, Norris was on the outside and he was, well, I guess you consider the attacking driver because he got ahead of Max. So then does Max become the attacking driver? It's a bit, there's a lot going on, right? But I think we can talk about this incident in its own merit. And I feel very confident that I can, I mean, maybe at 1:45 in the morning, I can't articulate what I mean, but I'm going to try. And I feel like I understand kind of where I sit on these kind of incidents. So, yeah, but that ahead at the apex at all costs is a stupid rule. Yes, absolutely, it is a stupid rule. Ahead at the apex at all costs is redonkadonk. But there you go. And thank you, Wingcap, as well. Max, when you pull a move, he would have done himself. Angry face. look, sometimes, right, you've just got to take a step back and be like, look, whether it's Christian Horner printing stuff out, which he did, he did a full Toto Wolff, all right, look it up. He printed out stills, which is the most like Twitter degenerate way of analysing a racing overtake at speed, is to print off stills and be like, look at the what are we doing here, Christian? But you know what? It's his job. And Max's job is to not agree with a ruling against him, although we didn't really complain about it afterwards because he was like, we can't say anything in criticism of the FIA. Although I think, in my opinion, Max not saying much about the incident is more to do with the fact that it's fair cop. That's what I think. I think Max knows that, all right, I gave it a go. I didn't get away with it. I'm not going to moan about it afterwards because I actually agree with the decision. That's what I think. That's what I think personally. However, anyway, what are we saying in the poll? 493 of you have voted. So 21% think it should have been a harsher penalty. 63% think it was about right. And 16% think it was too harsh. So, in case you didn't know what happened, Oscar starting on the inside, P2, Max on the outside, P1, Oscar on the dirtier side of the grid, but did a very, very good job getting off the line, got alongside Max into turn one, is ahead of Max, and as far as I'm concerned, watching it, is ahead once they reach, now again, define the apex. Is it as soon as the apex begins, do you draw a straight line across the track? Do you draw a line kind of diagonally, etc., 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 right? As far as I'm concerned, Oscar is ahead at the apex. Max is alongside Oscar, and Max remains alongside Oscar with the majority of Max's car. The difference here is, right, and whether we're talking about being ahead at the apex on the inside or ahead at the apex on the outside, if you are only ahead at the apex, or if you're only alongside because you are carrying too much speed to make the corner, then as far as I'm concerned, you're not ahead. That voids your ability to be ahead at the apex. If you're ahead at the apex, but you are carrying an appropriate amount of speed to keep some of your car within track limits, which technically means you're not off track, then fair cop. But there is for Max to be alongside Oscar, he is nowhere near making the corner. It's not even close. It's not even close. The only reason Max is alongside Oscar is because he's carrying too much speed, because he knows that, well, there's not a wall here on the inside of this left-right. There's no wall. This corner isn't defined by walls. It's defined by runoff. So I can just keep it going around the outside, stay as alongside to Oscar, and then just cut the corner, stay ahead. And we know clean air is king. So if you can get ahead, even if you cop a 5-second penalty, of course they're not going to give the position back, because you lose more than that in terms of race management if you can long out your first stint. But of course, like Max was doing exactly what he should do to try and maximise, because Oscar had the better start, right? Oscar had the better start and got alongside. The best thing Max could have done for his race result is to do exactly what he did, which is to get as alongside as you can, to try and fail, but try and get this, I was ahead at the apex thing. But even if that doesn't work, which it didn't, you're still ahead. And then you can have clean air and you're not rinsing your tyres. And Oscar's unlikely to get past because, A, you're Max Verstappen and you got pointy elbows. And B, you're in clean air and he's in dirty air behind you. Because most people in a train, you've both got DRS for one thing, but even though Oscar had DRS over Max at times, the dirty air is killer, right? So yeah, that is I think clearly it's so clear and obvious. Max was not Dawood. Max was not technically forced off. The only reason he was there was because he was carrying too much speed to make the corner. So he just in your mind, like draw out that left right chicane and then put a wall there, right? Max Oscar's ahead at the apex clearly, and Max would just pull back, right? And go around. This is what, right? This is what kind of Lewis Hamilton did to Max Verstappen in Abu Dhabi 21. Do we all remember that? Right? This is the kind of move that gets forgotten because I think that was naughty from Lewis. I do. When Max dive bombed and Lewis was obviously caught napping a bit, and rather than concede the position, Lewis just scampered across and just stayed ahead because Lewis thought he'd probably be able to get away with it, and he did. Lewis got away with that. I know they weren't like for like situations, but you play to the advantage of the situation. You try what you can. I don't blame Max for giving it a go. In fact, the steward said afterwards in their report that he would have got 10 seconds if it wasn't lap 1, but they always give concessions for lap 1. But in that instance, like, come on. Of course, it was... of course, Max should have been penalised. Now, obviously, there isn't a... am I right in saying that... but Lewis was fair and gave it back in the last lap. Oof, Zandy. Ouch. Am I right in saying that the stewards don't have a instruction available to them to like give back the position, right? That's not a thing, is it? The teams decide whether to give back the position or not because they're like, well, we reckon you're actually all right. You're not going to get a penalty. But the stewards never say to the teams, give back the position. It's always the teams who make that decision. And again, I'm not surprised Red Bull, you take the penalty because you're probably only going to get a 5 second because it's lap 1. 61% of you think it was the right penalty. And I think there's definitely a conversation to be had around, all right, if you're going to penalise lap 1 moves like that, when drivers are positioning their cars in such a way to just stay ahead, like the one in Mexico last year when Max, it was so egregious, that one in Mexico, because he made zero attempt to make the corner. Whereas this wasn't that. This was not that. But in terms of the outcome, you take the penalty for the track position. And because track position is so important right now in Formula 1, because of the dirty air, it means that all drivers, and I'm not just talking about Max, although Max seems to be the driver most culpable, let's be honest, of these kind of incidents, it's beneficial more often than not to get the track position but then cop the penalty. Because look, without that clean air for Max to run that first stint, I mean, does he still finish P2? I don't know. They were debating on comms whether Max would have been better to give the position back. I'm not convinced. I don't know. Maybe. We'll never know. I'm not convinced Max has a better Grand Prix if he gives back that position because of the dirty air he'd have been running in. And then Charles Leclerc maybe takes P2. I don't know. It's hard to say. 23% of you think it should have been a harsher penalty. Maybe like do I think stewards should have a you should give back the position option available to them? I don't know, because I don't know how because you can technically give someone the position but then it's quite hard to police. And the teams always try and be slick with it, don't they? Like, give the position back strategically. I remember that's what GP said to Max in Saudi 21. Give it back strategically. And they all do it, by the way, of course. you want to minimise that loss. I don't know. I'm split. I think the outcome, because of the dirty air problem that we have in F1 right now, 5 seconds maybe didn't feel harsh enough, but should we be deciding on penalties based off of the outcome? I think if dirty air wasn't such an issue, I think 5 seconds would have felt more appropriate to more people. Personally, I think 5 seconds within the rule book that we have was probably the fairest penalty, in my opinion. I think it's probably a fair cop. And yeah, they're usually softer on lap 1 incidents anyway. 15% if you think too harsh. So most of you seem to think it was about right. So yeah, I mean, I think Max did the right thing for his race. Ultimately, is what I believe. I think it was better for him to stay ahead, take the penalty, and get the P2. Is what it is. But well done Oscar for putting himself in that position to then get Max the 5 second penalty and eventually win the race. But anyway, right, we talked about the incident. The Red Bull, Lando had some words quite strong words after the race about how people were, been gassing up the McLaren too much and we're not actually that much clearer of the Red Bull. I think this weekend, the Red Bull, and look, this has been the case a number of weekends. I think in qualifying, McLaren is probably the quickest car, but it's not by much. I think in the races, the McLaren is a good chunk quicker than the rest. And I think the reason, I think if Oscar had been ahead of Max, he would have driven away. He wasn't, so he got caught in the dirty air. And when I say a good chunk, this is relatively speaking. It's all still very close, but I think the McLaren have a pace advantage in the races more than they do in qualifying. And because it is a bit of a quali formula at the moment, that is allowing, that's opening the door ever so slightly, and Max is walking through it time and time again. So, I mean, he did an incredible job in qualifying, did Max, and George was pretty close in quali as well, but they're nowhere near in the race, That's the way I see it. That is the way I see it. But Red Bull have a very, very quick car over a lap. We're getting closer to that Imola upgrade, round 7 now. We'll see if that changes anything, makes Max happier in this car, because Max has held on very, very well in the title fight. Very, very well. It's only, 12 points behind Oscar now. And yeah, Yuki just had a strange... I mean, look, we can't judge his race, obviously. Quali was a bit messy, but then they were like, this is the first time 2 Red Bulls have been in the top 8 since Baku last year, which I guess that's a win, I suppose. It's been... I think Yuki's doing like a private test, isn't he? I read an article about a private test that Yuki's doing in Silverstone, I want to say, in like an old car. Yeah, he did crash in practice as well. Yeah, I actually forgot about that. And that was a pretty nasty shine. He was quite unlucky because I think the part of the wall Yuki clipped was part where it kind of juts out a tiny bit, and that's what kind of broke the front left rather than just like grazing it, which again, similar to what Lando did. I think Yuki was quite unlucky, but of course, he's the one who drove into the wall. So, yeah, we still need to see more from Yuki. I think it's looked a bit more promising than what we saw from Liam, definitely. I think Yuki's... that experience is maybe helping, but we're not seeing it in the results. And I don't think we ever were gonna. Do I think Red Bull actually expected to see a sudden turnaround in results with Yuki in the car? Surely they can't have. Give it more time, and I think Yuki can get closer. Ooh, I don't know. Remains to be seen, that one. Remains to be seen. Cool. Red Bull done. Mercedes, again, yeah. I mean, they're old tyre degradation woes, given that this was a one-stopper for pretty much everyone, and George was the only driver really scared about his tyres at the end. Yeah, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating. It's just close, but not quite close enough. It feels, Mercedes seem to have the one lap pace that Ferrari don't, but Ferrari seem to have the race pace that Mercedes don't. Now, of course, when it's Baltic, maybe we'll get a cold snap in Miami and George might win, but yeah, it's just, It's George couldn't really make any impact in the race, was just gradually falling back, pitted off the mediums and then was struggling at the hards at the end. Kimi was running quite significantly behind George. I think Kimi got a lot of learnings from the race, but not one to remember for Mercedes. And I think they'll consistently be up there, but unless they bring something new to this car, which I've not read anything about any upgrades coming to the Mercedes, I'm sure there will be. I'd like to think so. I hope for George's sake in particular. Maybe George should have done better in saving his tyres, Drew, but also, in these really hot conditions, the Mercedes just isn't. And, he's trying to, he's qualified P3. He's trying to keep up there with the leaders, and they have cars that are way kinder on their tyres than the Mercedes. It just is what it is, But, yeah. Until they bring an upgrade, there's not much to say. More to say about Mercedes, I'm afraid. Williams, you tried to cock it up with Carlos's pit stop, but fortunately, that 6-second one didn't end up hurting you in the end. Yeah, I think Carlos kind of pulled away from Alex a bit at the end because he wanted to kind of show the pace that he did have. That he felt he could have been, 10 seconds further up the road, closer to Lewis if they weren't worried about holding off Hadjar. Which was the right team decision. Ultimately, it was the pragmatic choice from Williams. But it's good to see Carlos, starting to get settled now into this car. Fractionally ahead of Albon in Q2, which made the difference in the end. And 5 places different on the grid and double points. I mean, Williams have turned off development, I believe. I've read a few articles about Williams having turned off full development for this car and shifted everything to 26, which I'm not remotely surprised about because they've clearly got a good car underneath them. It's quick in a straight line. It still retains that quality, and they've got 2 top quality drivers. So, you know what? Just giving them this car, this is what you have, lads, till the end of the year. Carlos, you can just keep learning and keep getting. You're not having to worry about adapting to upgrades. In some ways, that might make Carlos's learning process for the rest of this year a bit more easy. Not having any upgrades coming. Alex still getting a bit sassy on the old radio. I feel like, have we always had these sassy radios, but we just don't hear them? And now the race director's like, Alex is being sassy on, put him on in 5. Bosh. He's getting sassy about, I'm trying to keep the car behind, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? Yes, they do also use the 24 chassis this year, don't they? An upgraded version of the last year's chassis to save a bit of money. So we know they're going all in on 26 and 27. Alex has said he feels like 27 is. My head's so shiny. So I just clocked how shiny my forehead is in the camera. Look at this. I'm surprised you can't see yourselves. 27 is more the play for Williams to win a title, but who knows, right? If Mercedes engine cooks, then they're going to be in a good place. Remember they raced me so hard. Oh, Kazoo. Memories, eh? Memories. Throwback. Well done, Williams. Well done. Good to see. I got a soft spot for Williams, absolutely. Nice to see them cooking somewhat. Oscar Piastri wins the 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, winning 3 out of the first 5 Grand Prix, excluding the sprint in China, of the season. Oscar, first of all, I mean, yeah, he did a really good job in qualifying. Again, without that little bit of toe help for Max, he's putting it on pole. It's a tenth of a second. It's such fine margins, and great start. Put himself in that position to get Max the penalty / take the position if Max had conceded the corner. And I think if Oscar gets clean air, he wins more comfortably than he did in the end. I think Max getting ahead even taking that 5-second penalty was the right choice for Max. I think Oscar wins this race by more than he did if he gets ahead at the start. And just executed. Even McLaren gave him like a 3.6 second stop, didn't they? 3.5 seconds, something like that. So they didn't exactly smash it from that point of view, but Oscar's just got the job done. Calm, composed, getting a bit aggy with some of the traffic going through, but that's a first world problem. Yeah, I mean, very impressive. Very impressive from Oscar. Like, yeah, it's been good. It's been a strong start to the year. You look at the points he lost out in Australia as well, and you think, something's going to have to change. Something's going to have to go against him for this to not continue. And Lando's got a hell of a task ahead of him to beat the Aussie, because he's cooking. And maturity beyond his years, absolutely. I can't speak more highly of Oscar. Really can't. I think he did an incredible job this weekend. He's done an incredible job all season. No question, no doubt in my mind at all. Now, I want to reflect on a super chat I saw earlier. And also Max Naismith, Aussie. I'll see you, Max. See, look. 1:08 in the morning in the UK, but I'm here because you Australians should all be awake now and watching. If you're Australian, double check you've liked the stream. All right, double check. Christopher, thank you for your 2 USD super chat earlier. You said Lando does not have the it factor previous World Drivers' Championships have. Lando, has said he wants to do it his way. He's going to be himself. His approach, he wants to do it his way. It's World Drivers' Champions they're not all the same. Lewis was different to Sebastian, who was different to Michael, who was different to Ayrton, who was different to Alain, who was different to, keep going again and again and again. Who was different to Max, right? Who's been the most recent guy to dominate this sport. I predicted Lando to crash in quali for a reason. And it happened. Now, did it happen for the reasons that I thought? Which was that I think Lando was going to over-push in a car that he's said himself he's not fully comfortable in. Around a track like Saudi, where you are punished if you don't have absolute confidence and you're pushing for that final fraction of a percent. Maybe not. Either way, Oscar's like, how does Lando overcome Oscar? Like, in terms of raw, absolute maximum speed, yeah, maybe I would give it to Lando. I think Lando, that raw, absolute Lando on his job, is probably fractionally quicker than Oscar. But it's such a fine margin. In race, in terms of managing the tyres, in terms of, Lando's done some top tier long stints in his F1 career so far. I think Oscar's close. Maybe give that to Lando as well. But when you're making a mistake like that, and look, you're not the first top driver to crash in qualifying, of course. Lewis, Max, Charles, all the top guys have done it. But in this context, so early on in the season, where the points that are scored are a bigger percentage of the total points that have been accumulated so far, it hurts. And to not recover and get onto the podium, where I feel like Lewis played him. I was surprised that Lando didn't. I don't know, like this. This is very fan telling driver what to do, but I think it took too long for Lando to get past Lewis, because it was pretty clear after the first attempt what Lewis was trying to do. Like, and then that hold up would that have made a difference? Would he have caught Charles without being held up by Lewis? That we'll never know. But like, I just think, big shunt in qualifying. Didn't even get the banker in. Like, get the bank, drive, hold a percent back for your first push when you're not and then go for it. But no, doesn't even get a banker in. Crash in qualifying, and then in the race, Lewis recovers to P4. P10 to P4 is a very strong drive. Absolutely, had really good pace on that hard tyre. Made it work, but was it an expertly executed weekend like Charles Leclerc? Charles Leclerc didn't put a foot wrong, and he maximised his car. No, it wasn't, and the mistakes were there, and they got punished. And he should have probably finished ahead of George last week and should have finished ahead of Charles this week, given the car underneath him, and he didn't. And when Oscar's operating at such a high level, when Max is operating at such a high level, and there's possibly more to come with that Red Bull car, with the upgrade and the wing flexibility changes in the next few races, those mistakes are gonna get punished and get exposed. So, yeah, McLaren, look, really strong position. Constructors looks like an absolute wrap. Oscar is absolutely the driver who is, conveying way more confidence, and there's more belief, and Lando has to now go away. I think this is a good time now to have a bit of a break and recover and recoup. And I don't know how Lando turns this around, because he's got two. And if Ferrari brings something, you chuck Charles Leclerc in there as well. If Mercedes brings something, chuck George Russell in there as well. And it's a hell of a task. It's a hell of a task for Lando. If Lando Norris can find a way to turn this around and win this 2025 World Championship, then wow. He will be that will be one of the most impressive F1 title wins of all time. If Lando, from where he is now, can find a way to win this thing, bravo. There's a long way to go, but bravo. And it doesn't matter, Xavier, that is 8 points away or 10 points away. It's not about the points at this stage. It's about the momentum, because there's 20 more Grand Prix. That's 450 points if you win every single race. So it's the momentum is all with Piastri and Verstappen. And George is killing it, and Charles is killing it. So if them cars pick it up, bosh. Momentum is everything at this part of the season. The points will work themselves out. It's momentum right now, and Lando has none of it. Oscar has all of it. But time will tell. Racing Bulls, decent pace. Probably. I reckon Williams were the quicker car, and I think they would. I do believe them when they say they were just kind of being passive to make sure they had job behind. But probably sixth quickest car this weekend. Very up and down. It wasn't at the races in Bahrain at all, but around Saudi, around the high speed stuff, the Racing Bulls decent. Kind of like the older sister car, whatever you want to call it. The Red Bull. Good to see Liam out-qualify Isaac, just for his own sake, his own momentum. Obviously, copped a 10-second penalty in the race, which is a shame. Isaac seemed pretty happy with his performance in the Grand Prix. Enjoyed it. Obviously annoying for him to be stuck where he was, but yeah, I mean, it was okay. It was okay. You know what? Actually, I think that I think Liam's going to get... I just worry for, Liam, because Lindblad's there. Lindblad's just here. He's just waiting. You know that the meme when, someone's waiting in the corner, they don't even know that I'm going to be a Racing Bulls, Red Bull racing driver in the near future. He's just waiting, He's just waiting. Momentum is, like we say with the McLarens, momentum is a difficult thing to achieve. I'm literally, a few of you in live chat are saying watch the Lawson 10-second time penalty incident, and it literally the first thing that popped up on my Twitter. So he gets ahead of doing. I'm not showing it on the stream because they gave him 10 seconds. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. So that overtake on doing where he does go outside the track limits. It is crazy tight. But the problem is, yeah, I mean, the overtake is done. The overtake is done on Jack. He does technically go outside the track limits, but he's already completed the overtake, as far as I'm concerned, on Jack Doohan, and then he just outbrakes himself. So that is, I mean, that is a very, very harsh penalty. Has he technically completed the overtake? Well, yes, he has fully passed Jack, but he still has the I mean, it's pretty dumb. Either way, Liam had a good race. Just careful. Arvid's on his way. And yeah, there's no way that deserves 10 seconds. But 10 seconds is the default penalty now, apart from on lap 1. So they're always gonna give a 10 second. But it is pretty crazy. It is pretty crazy. Haas, I mean, I've got nothing to say about Haas, really. Ocon out in Q1, Behrman into Q2, but not much pace. The high speed stuff seems to be the Achilles heel with this car. Yes, the floor upgrade helped in Suzuka, but Ocon's still getting his feet under the table at this team, I think, and Ollie, of course, is a bit more experienced in this Haas car than Esteban, having done a couple of tryouts before and a lot of FP1s. Ryo Hirakawa, we know there's Toyota are big linked up with Haas. I think Ocon could be in trouble with Hirakawa for next season. Depends on that Toyota influence, and Hirakawa's done a good job in the FP1s he's running so far. I got nothing. I've got nothing. They did better in the race than they did in qualifying. That's all I've got to say. Ferrari, oh man, Lewis saying he needs a brain transplant. Charles going, thank you, Brian, on the radio. Ferrari's Ferrariing at the moment, isn't it? Podium for Charles, unbelievable drive, maximised the weekend, 2-second pit stop on the dots. Good tyre management on the Ferrari, not able to extract it overlapping qualifying, which is a problem when it's a bit of a qualifying formula right now, because the dirty air means you can't get close. This is what I was worried about happening for Lewis. And look, again, at the start of the year, Charles was also struggling. In the first, let me have a look at the little quali gaps. So, so Charles out-qualified Lewis by 0.2 in Australia. Then Lewis got the double dub over Charles in China, 0.2 in sprint quali, and then 0.1 in normal quali. But then in the last 3 qualifying sessions, so in Japan, 0.3 advantage Leclerc, 0.6 in Bahrain advantage Leclerc, and 0.53 of a second advantage Leclerc in Saudi. So that's averaging out at like almost half a second in the last 3 Grand Prix, where Charles seems to be finding his feet and Lewis seems to be losing his. And it's concerning. It is concerning. I just think, Lewis needs to use this season to not worry too much about the results and just focus on just understanding this team and this car and the Brembo brakes and all of these things that are being talked about as differentiating factors between what he's used to in a Mercedes powered car versus now. And, even if the points are terrible, even if the quality performances look really bad, you need to be able to make 26 work and just use this whole season as a testing session. And it won't be pretty. I don't think it's going to be pretty. Lewis seems very, very down, very, very negative, very, very despondent. That's the way I see it. Weak career end really hurts Lewis. Yeah, he's not happy with it does seem, that it's the back of the car. And again, around a track like Saudi, if you're nervous about the rear axle, you're not going to be able to push flat out, because if you lose it, you will hit a wall at a serious speed. So, yeah, look, I think... Do I think Lewis will ever get close to Charles in qualifying one lap pace when Charles is on his job, when Charles is maximising his Ferrari? No, I do not. If in 26 Ferrari can give these two a car that is competitive for a world title, but the dirty air is much more chilled out, I think Lewis's racecraft, his race management, basically everything on a Sunday, I think Lewis is still exceptional. I do think he's lost a bit of his edge over a lap. I think that is very clear to me. But he still has enough as a driver to be a threat in a title charge if Ferrari can give the hardware. But to beat Charles, that's the problem. Because that's a huge ask, because Charles is an incredible Formula 1 driver who has the talent to have multiple world titles. No doubt, no question in my mind at all. Charles Leclerc is absolutely him. And he proved it again this weekend, just how good he is. And yes, it's a long one day. You know what? Actually, we're almost an hour and a half. And I reckon we've done an hour and a half. So, we always find a way. And it's 1:30 in the morning. Damn. But yeah, Ferrari, sort your car out. Add some more downforce. Please. Not much more to say about Ferrari. Again, these quality radio from Charles Leclerc. Thank you, Brian. It's great. Alpine, embarrassing to close Viri, but ultimately the team will benefit from a Mercedes power unit next year. So embarrassing, but kind of sometimes you got to take the L to take the dub in the long term, and that's what they've done. Jack, bad weekend for him. FP1 and FP2, according to him, were basically useless, and yeah, that's obviously not good. Gasly, much better, but unfortunate to get caught out in that lap 1 incident. I still think he would have fell out of the top 10 though, because that car just ain't quick enough in a straight line. Because Renault, stick to electric cars. The Renault 5 looks sick, but ice, no good. Not much more to say. I still think, P9 in the constructors doesn't really reflect the overall performance of this car, but that power unit deficit's always going to hurt them. That chassis is always going to have to be performing above and beyond. With a decent engine, it's probably the 5th quickest car, but it doesn't, and that's the problem. Bailey, how did you just wake up? If you're in Australia, what's going on? It's not good enough. Final team, Sauber. I have nothing to say about Sauber. Just slow. Not good. Bortoleto almost sent Alonso into early retirement. Late retirement, I guess, in a way. And Hulkenberg just had a very, very transparent race. I don't know what to call it. He was just like a ghost. Wasn't there. Right. I think that's about I mean, that's about it, because I'm losing my mind, because it's 25 past 1 in the morning. Thank you all for joining me, wherever you are in the world. Thank you, Matt Amos, for joining me. Why are you not in bed, my friend? If Gasly didn't stack it, where do you think he would have finished? He would have finished outside the top 10, Matt, because that car has no pace. Go to bed, all right? Go to bed. Everyone tell Matt Amos go to bed, and subscribe to his channel. Do that first, then tell him to go to bed. Thank you, Drew, DH, Zoe, Pios, Gladiator, Tyler, Caroline. My mouse has run out of battery. You're making a TikTok at 1:30 in the morning. Your neighbours must not be happy. Gil, Drew, Xavier, Alex, Manuel, Stella, Dawood, Martin, Wesley, Sidanth, Jamie, El, and the rest of you. I appreciate you taking the time. Don't forget to like the stream. If you're here in the live, drop a comment once I've finished this live, because more comments means more algorithm. And that helps me. So thank you, as always. I really appreciate you taking the time. Probably next video on Tuesday. I think I'm going to do one about Lewis and Ferrari and the predicament and the brain transplant that he wants. Might have to Photoshop that in the thumbnail. Lewis with the brain. New brain. No AI though. No AI in my thumb. This is all proper Photoshop, not some AI nonsense. Right. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.